Toch wel?
Toch wel?
Toch wel.
Ja, die is puur voor het video.
Okay. Thank you, Creative Mornings, for having me. I think my name was said already a couple of times, Sandy Roxanna, that's who I am. How are we going to do that? Yeah. Yeah, you can continue. Yeah. So who am I? And why am I asked to do a talk on spirituality? I'm a woman with many interests, as he already indicated. On my day-to-day job, I actually work as account manager at a recruitment firm right across the street over there called Daan. And I also do spiritual coaching. For me, it's part of a sense of purpose that I have, that I feel that I have to continue contributing in a spiritual way to the world. And when they asked me to keep a talk on spirituality, I was like, spirituality is so broad, you know, what am I going to talk about? So I decided to zoom in on the last 7 years of my life, because I think 7 years ago, I experienced what in the community, the spiritual community, they call the dark night of the soul. Yeah. Dark night of the soul. Has anybody ever heard about that term? You know, dark night of the soul. Sounds very... The idea is that sometimes you have such intense crises in your life that you doubt everything. You doubt who you are. You doubt why you're even here. You know, what's the point of life? What's the point of being here? Why am I doing what I'm doing? You know, that's what they call the dark night of the soul. And I think for many, that's an opening into spirituality. Because either you lose all faith and you think, you know, I've been abandoned, you know, I've been forsaken, and I can't go on. Believing in something bigger than me, otherwise I wouldn't have been in this position, or you hang on to your spirituality for dear life because that's the only thing you have, your faith that you will rise again. And what happened to me 7 years ago was that I seemed to have the perfect life, you know. I had, a partner, we had 2 kids under 5, we had this newly built house. I was a teacher at the University of Applied Sciences. That was my dream job, you know. And I figured I had it all made. You know, the 2 cars in front of the door, one was a Volvo, you know. The whole, you see the picture, right? And for the world, that was like, oh yeah, they're doing good. But I was so miserable. I felt like I was on this bike and it was going downhill really fast and I didn't have brakes and I was just holding on because I felt that if I didn't hold on to the steering wheel, I would just crash. And I was going on like that, thinking, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to maintain this situation, until my then partner told me, you know, I think you really need to call in sick and, you know, build yourself back up because this is not good, the state you're in. And then the moment I got off the bike is when I hit this dark night of the soul, because then I accepted that I was failing. I was failing in pretending to be this person that I was not. And then all of a sudden I start, you know, the stress of holding on to a life that's not really meant for you. Then I start feeling my body aching, you know. I was crying for days. I was just a mess, a total mess. So I was like, okay, so what am I going to do, you know? And my employer was like, yeah, we want you to come back to work, so we'll help you with a coach. And I had this coach, and she was trying to get me back in balance. And she was like, you know, the next one? She was like, you have to look at your support system as being 3 pillars, you know, your significant other, your job, and your family and friends. So those are the 3 pillars you have. And if 2 out of 3 are imbalanced, you know, you'll crash. So you need to focus on getting those pillars back in order. But that was very external point of view. It was very much outside of me. And I was like, yeah, but I've crashed already. I want to build myself back up. And those factors you're talking about seem to be very outside of me, you know? So what do? You're trying to build yourself back up? You Google. So I Googled, like, you know, life energy low, you know, something like that. And then all of a sudden I saw a page on Reiki. You know, it's energy work from Japan. And I was like, yes, this sounds good, you know, building up your life energy and restoring your energy flow. And I was like, yeah, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. So I signed up for the 1-day course. And I went there all enthusiastic, you know, yay, I'm going to get my energy back together. And then they start talking about, you know, it's about your mind, your heart, and your intuition. And I'm like, okay, yeah, get to the point, you know, give me the tools so I can, you know, be back to the old version of me. And basically the Reiki part taught me to meditate, taught me to find stillness within, to exhale, to calm down, to get your energy more grounded, to be more centered, and to actually receive information and insights instead of constantly going outside of yourself, and finding something besides, what your inner thoughts are and finding confirmation for what you're thinking. And then I was totally loving this Reiki thing, the soft feeling I was getting from it, the slowing down, the flow. And I started, the geek that I am, I Googled again, more books, I want to see more books, I want to read more on this. And then I saw this book on Reiki and shamanism combined. And I was like, oh, okay, what is this shamanism then? And I started reading books from this lady, Sandra Ingerman. And she's a very well-known shamanic practitioner. And they were offering a course on being a shamanic practitioner in Utrecht. So all of a sudden, I was going to Utrecht every month to learn about shamanism. And that was totally my thing. Shamanism is about energy, it's about nature, And my family physician told me, when I was having these burnout symptoms, go walk outside, because the best way to lower your cortisol levels is by connecting with nature, seeing a lot of green, seeing trees, seeing plants. That's how you get your cortisol levels to go down, So for me, shamanism was going a step further. It wasn't just about being in nature, it was about connecting with nature and seeing signs in nature. Which animals do you see? Being really present and connecting to the world in the natural form. So for me, shamanism was the way that I started moving towards a more natural, more balanced way of life. And then I encountered the next thing. It's called the medicine wheel. And the medicine wheel, basically all the indigenous cultures you see from Peru to North America, they have some form of this medicine wheel. The idea is that the seasons of the year are in four, the four elements, water, air, earth, fire. But also we as humans develop in 4 stages, from baby to elderly. There are 4 phases of life you go through. And one of the things they were saying is, if you want to be whole, if you want to be in balance, you need to have attention not only for your mind, not only for your body, which I was doing, the mind, learning new things, books, the bodies, running, yoga, okay, let's do that. But I wasn't paying a lot of attention to the emotions and the spirit part, so there was a disbalance there. So the shamanism thing was really interesting. I was like, okay, so I have to find a way to find the balance in all 4 of these areas. Okay. So the more I started engaging in this spiritual journey, and to be, honest, I think spirituality is something that's very individual. It's the contrary to sort of like the religious idea of that you have rules and dogmas. I think it's really your own journey. It's what you make of it. For me, it was Reiki and shamanism, but it might be something totally different for you. But the journey of finding a way to have a relationship with a force bigger than you, that's what it's about. What is spirituality to me is actually having an active relationship with a force, if you call it God, if you call it source, or you call it universe. But there's a being bigger than me that I can lean on, that I can surrender to, that I can ask for guidance and trust that the guidance will come, that synchronicities will happen, magic will happen if I allow myself to open up to it. And what I mean with magic, I'm not talking Harry Potter, ching, ching, ching. No, I'm talking about the magic that happens when you open your heart, you send out your intentions, what you would like to see in your life, and you actually see signs. And whether it be, I was talking just now about music, sometimes you're just listening to a song, and there's this one short part of a sentence, you go like, oh yeah, that's it, Or you see a pamphlet, and you go, that's what I needed. That's the thing that I needed to make the next step, right? So for me, that's what spirituality has become. It has become my personal way of keeping myself in balance. It's a way of, that's the next one, to find the path of the heart. Because the thing is, a lot of people experience things from a young age, just like I did, that affected me in the way that I close my heart off, because you get hurt if you leave your heart open and people don't respect it, your boundaries or whatever. You might end up getting hurt. So as a young kid, I learned that. So my survival mechanism was, yes, use the mind, use the intuition, but the heart, nah. So how was I going to prevent ending up again in that situation of being, in the dark night of the soul, it was about, on my spiritual journey, opening up my heart again. And how do you do that? I can imagine somebody thinking that. How do you open your heart again? It's about doing the work. And you can go about the traditional way, like therapy. That's fine. I chose to also do family constellations because a lot of the pain I had was from my family. You can also go for a more physical approach, sort of like cacao ceremonies or ayahuasca ceremonies. Those are also ways of clearing up old pain you might have that prohibit you from really standing in life with an open heart. And obviously, you can always read books. You can always do that. The question is, will it really open your heart? Of course, it's interesting if you can put it to practice. It's about doing. Having an open heart is a state of being. So for me, that's what my spiritual journey has been about. Finding my way to be in balance, and the decisions I make now about my life, if it's my career or if it's spirituality or whatever, is not just here. Because that's how I ended up where I was 7 years ago. Because I was just thinking, oh, this is a good career step. Oh, this is a smart move to make. And I wasn't really feeling in my heart, but is this really what my heart wants? Is this really what my soul wants? Is this really the way that I can express the best version of myself as a spiritual being having a human experience? So that's my talk on spirituality. And I hope that you guys have questions that I can help you guys with.